What's up everyone, it's Scott here from WFLBC. I am traveling again. We just got back from Hawaii and I took along the Fujifilm X100F. If you guys want to watch that video, I'll link it below. I love this camera, but my biggest problem with this camera, other than where the Q button is, which is just the worst spot ever, is the price. Do you get your money's worth with this camera? Absolutely. I do believe that you do. Is there cheaper alternatives to this camera that will give you similar image quality? Yes, there is. Now, I am headed to a totally different sort of location than Hawaii. I'm headed to Toronto in 2 weeks I'm going to see a concert that I missed while I was in Hawaii. I'm going to see Ben Folds. He was here in Vancouver while I was in Hawaii, and I really wanted to see this tour, so I'm flying to Toronto to see him. Life is rough, but I will survive. So what I want to do is show you guys what I'm taking with me. I'm not taking anything incredibly fancy with me. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to bring the least fancy stuff I can, but it's turned into a bit of a pile of gear here, as opposed to just the X100F, which I think is very expensive, but it does everything that these cameras do really well. Plus I've got some film that I'm bringing along with me. I'll show you guys that in a minute. So what I'm gonna do is bring my good old Fujifilm X-A1, which has a really dirty screen. Let me find a cloth here. Fujifilm X-A1 with now a clean screen. This is the very first X series camera I ever bought. Actually, I got it as a gift, I didn't buy it. It's got a non-X-Trans sensor, so it's got a traditional Bayer sensor, 16 megapixel, APS-C, not a ton of autofocus points, and I'm going to bring with me the cheap and cheerful 27mm f2.8 pancake lens. You can see why I've chosen this setup, because size-wise, it's not that different. Now this is 24 megapixels, X-Trans 3, X Processor Pro, all kinds of autofocus points. The lens is f2, it's 23 mil, so it's a tiny bit wider. But I aim to prove that you can achieve similar results, if not almost identical results, with this setup. Now, because this is a super entry-level 3 generations ago Fujifilm X series camera, you can get this thing for a couple of $100 on eBay in really good condition. Chances are it will probably come with this lens, which is the original XC 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens, the f3.5 to 5.6. There is a newer version of this, the version 2, which I do not have. I still shoot with this lens. I don't mind this lens at all. It's a little slow, but it's light and it's small, and it is fairly sharp, and the autofocus is fairly quick. If you get this X-A1 with this lens, you're gonna take stunning pictures because it's a great combination. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I'm also going to bring along the venerable XC50 to 230 telephoto lens, which is the cheapest telephoto lens. You're seeing a theme here, right? Cheap camera. The pancake lens is, I believe, the cheapest prime lens you can get. This is the cheapest sort of all-around lens. This is the cheapest telephoto lens. This lens is super slow. It's f4.5 to 6.7. It has OIS. I've done a review on this lens before. I will also link that below. This lens is phenomenal. So, to get this lens, and this, you're looking at, I haven't done the math ahead of time, so you're looking at this much money in Canadian dollars, which is a lot cheaper than the X100F. You're not gonna get the cool points for it though, but cool points don't really count for anything, so I think you'll be okay. For vlogging, I'm going to bring along my Canon G7X Mark II. That's it. That's all I'm gonna film with this whole trip. Again, with the dirty screen. Now, the big change on this trip, on my last trip I did bring along a film camera. It was my Minolta Himatic AF2, which is a little plastic, fantastic point and shoot camera that's got a super crisp and really contrasty f2.8. I think it's a... Again, I didn't plan this very well. It's a great camera. They're super cheap. They're like 20 or 30 bucks on eBay. Auto focus, auto everything. You just have to wind the film yourself, which is less things to break. So I think that that's fantastic. This trip, I am bringing with me my Minolta Maxxum 7000 SLR. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have some great lenses for this camera. I want to shoot some unique film while I'm in Toronto. So I'm bringing one prime with me. This is a 50mm f1.7, so reasonably fast lens. This camera is lights out, the best DSLR, or SLR, sorry, that I've ever used. The autofocus is old and clunky, but I mean, it gets the job done. I'm bringing two lenses with me in addition to this prime lens. I'm bringing, this would have been the kit lens at the time. It is a, hang on here, I opened the wrong end. It's a 28 to 85 zoom lens. It's is it a constant aperture? Might be. No, f3.5 to 4.5. So, you know, reasonably fast. The aperture doesn't change that much throughout its zoom range. It's also a macro lens, so that's pretty cool. You guys remember Black's cameras? Canadian people out there, you remember Black's cameras? That's where this filter's from. And it's still good. That's like a collector's item. Then I'm also bringing with me the famous beer can lens. You can see why it's called that based on the way it looks. This is a 70 to 200 f4, so it's a constant f4. It's a completely internal zoom lens, so when you zoom, everything's internal. I picked this lens up at Camera Traders in Victoria last summer. This lens is absolutely incredible. I am also going to bring with me this little teeny tiny Olympus XA2, which is a little 35mm point and shoot camera. I picked this up at Treehouse in Hawaii, one of the coolest camera stores that I've ever been to, but this thing is so small. It is so small, but you're getting the equivalent of a full frame. If you want to think in DSLR terms or digital camera terms, a full frame image. You're just shooting on film, but you're getting that in this little teeny tiny package. Now, the film I'm going to shoot while I'm in Toronto, I've got 4 different films that I'm bringing with me. I have one roll of Japan Camera Hunter Street Pan. This is a 400 ISO black and white film. It's 36 exposures. This is an old security camera film that Bellamy Hunt has rebranded, and I shot a roll of this in Hawaii. I haven't had it processed yet. Curious to see what that's going to look like. I'm bringing a roll of Fujicolor Natura 1600, so this is a very high-speed film, 1600 ISO, 36 exposures. I'm going to be shooting this at night. Just one roll, that's all I'm bringing. Curious to see how this performs. I am bringing a roll of Rolei Variochrome, which you can use at ISO 200 to 400. It's color reversal film. This is an interesting roll of film. I don't know if I'm going to shoot it at 200 or 400. Tell me what I should shoot it at. I'm leaning towards 400, but tell me below if you think I should shoot it at 200 and why. And also I've got a bunch of rolls of Cinestill 800, which is a tungsten color film for shooting at night. Look this stuff up on Instagram and on wherever you find stuff on the internet, because the pictures this film creates are absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, super cheap digital setup, super cheap film setup. I'm bringing this all with me to Toronto. It's, when you add everything up here, including the film, I believe it's going to still cost less than that X100F. So really think about that. Now, people will gripe at this XA1 because it doesn't have an X-Trans sensor. You know, I gotta be honest, I've shot with a lot of Fuji X series cameras over the years, and I have a hard time beating the results that I get from this XA1. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this trip. I haven't been to Toronto. I lived there when I was a kid, and we moved out to Vancouver when I was 9. I haven't been back since I was like 10 or 11. I've been to the airport a few times, just sort of passing through, but I'm pretty excited to go back, and I'm probably gonna rent a car for at least a day or two, and then sort of head out to the old neighborhood where I used to live in Mississauga, which is a suburb in Toronto, and cruise by the old house and maybe the school I went to, and you know, see what's going on. Yeah, that's pretty much it this week, you guys. So just remember that you don't need to spend a ton of money on camera gear to get really nice image results, and that is what I am aiming to prove coming up next week with this camera and this little lens and these other 2 super cheap lenses. It's not about the gear, but the gear, well, it is about the gear, but the gear doesn't have to be the most expensive gear around. There's ways to make incredible images with pretty cheap stuff. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you want to catch up with me when I'm in Toronto. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at WFLBC. And if you like this video, please hit the like button because it helps the channel out quite a bit. I will see you in the next one. Thanks.